Hello and welcome back to English Language Teachers ELT Under the Covers. It's NeilTEAcher from Team Teacher, and I'm with Professor Rich, and
Professor
I
Rich.
have an amazing guest today. She is a vastly experienced teacher, previous school owner, creator of Teachers House Shop, which applies teachers in and across China with everything that they need, books, teaching supplies, equipment, board games, you name it, she has it. Creator of the Teachers House Network, which is a great resource for teachers in China and outside of China. If you've got our WeChat, absolutely amazing. I love it and still use it even though I'm not within China right now. Also, avid board gamer and a great proponent of actually using board games in the classroom, and I'm very excited to talk to her about how she does that. And also, you'll probably recognize her by her voice because she is a voiceover actor in many things that I just don't have time to list. She's a superstar. She is the vivacious, the vibrant Brandy teacher.
Hi guys. Yeah,
Thank you for coming on.
I used to go by my Chinese name, which is directly translates right to Brandy the alcohol, Bailandi. And so they would call me. I was like, man, that's probably not good for teaching, so let's just cut it off, and I go with Bailan, which is white orchid. So that's nice. But in China, like you said, they call you your name and then teacher. So I just went with Bai Lao Shi, and they just cut it off. And so then I didn't realize this because I've been here way too long. Culturally speaking, to literally walk around saying, "Hi, my name's White Teacher," you know, people called me out in WeChat groups for this, and I'm like, I swear to you, in Chinese culture, Bai is a last name, so it just sounds like you're saying Mrs. White, which is again is an English last name. It just sounds normal.
It's
like
very common,
no
actually.
like, yeah, you're not racist for your name being Mrs. White. So that was something early on in the Teachers House Network groups. I had to change my name in my own groups because I was causing strife and troubles and.
Yeah, it's one of the issues with China, isn't there? There's just so many kind of little scams going off, and it seems a bit under the nose. I would guess.
But that's the thing as well. I can't imagine that Chinese people would actually care at all about that. It's very much a Western thing, isn't it? It's like we're the ones overthinking about it.
Oh yeah, it was always in the teacher groups, and it was always mostly Americans. Like, I think we're more sensitive to that than a lot of other countries, and especially now. But this was like 5 or 6 years ago when the network was just starting. It's just, and like starting a network, like getting the branding and your name and your personality and minding your P's and Q's online and all that mess. It's been a long journey. I never knew that the WeChat group would grow like that. It was just like people kept asking me questions about how to teach, and I would keep answering them. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 10 of you. Let's answer all the same questions at the same time in a group. And then now we have like 50 something groups. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they're amazing. They're so helpful and free.
So obviously, Neil, you know more about this than I do, but I don't really know a lot. But so this is like a mentor program, is it?
No, so like on Facebook, you have Facebook groups, and it's pretty easy to find Facebook groups. You just kind of just do search. But with WeChat, it's a lot more difficult, and
it's like private invite, like WhatsApp, is it?
Exactly. But Brandy's done a great job of like organizing these groups. Like kindergarten, school business owners, just like learning English, learning Chinese. Just what you said, like 50.
Yeah.
And
they organically branched off. It started with like a big group. And then people were like, why are you always talking about kindergarten teaching? I teach high schoolers. And I'm like, all right, well, you guys get your own little group then. And then like they whined and moaned until they got their own groups, basically. I'm like, if there's, at least 50 of you and you're going to keep having conversations, then I'll open a group for it. I don't open groups just to open groups. I've seen networks like that where they open all these groups and everything's free and they just collect a lot of people and then they sell groups. I didn't know that there's this whole like economy of buying and selling groups with foreigners in them.
Really?
Yeah, there's some shady stuff going on WeChat.
And then they just spam the hell out of them, I guess.
And they spam the hell out of them, yeah. Like with job ads, usually.
So rather than a mentor program, it's more like a peer-to-peer style thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So it's kind of like a virtual teaching room, a virtual teacher's room, right? Where you go
I
in,
literally
melting
have a
pot
group
of ideas.
Yeah. I'm like, this is the chit chat room. This is the coffee lounge. This is you can talk about what TV show you're into. Mind your P's and Q's, because this is a multinational, intercultural, cross communication, like potential market. That's the room that's the hardest to manage. Like when they have free range of topics, but everything else is very like specifically. This is the group for phonics and reading. You want to know how to teach it, or what's best practices, or what books do you need? Like, let's just chat on that. But if you want to chit chat, we made a group for that, and it's not stopped being a headache since the day it opened.
Yeah, but Brandy does an absolute amazing job of managing these and keeping people on track without stepping on too many toes.
Yeah. Well, I tried at one point to get admins in. Like, I picked some of the most active members and I said, hey guys, can you help me out? And they're like, yeah, sure. Problem with volunteers is you can't fire them. No. And while we had some amazing volunteers, we also had people that started bringing down the network, and I couldn't get rid of them. And that was kind of messy for a bit. So I just said, you know what? Okay, I'll go back to doing it myself. I wasn't paying you guys anyways. Thank you for your help. You're always welcome to get discounts or whatever at the shop, or I think I ended on mostly positive notes with most people, but I was kind of embarrassed about the whole situation. So I could have done that better. I learned my lesson there.
Well, you live, you learn with this sort of stuff. I mean, it grows, it changes, adapts, and it is what it
now
is.
They self-regulate. I think now the culture of the network has permeated with all the main kind of like vocal members, and they will let people know when they cross lines. Based on how I share and interact. People kind of model after the admins.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, oh, that's allowed, that's not, and they'll crack down on each other. I don't even have to admin them mostly anymore. I just except for that chit chat group.
It's kind of like classroom management.
Yeah. It's exactly like dealing with 5-year-olds. Those were my exact words. I'm like, all right, you guys are teachers, not 5-year-olds. Why do I have to deal with this like this?
Okay, that's
anyways,
fantastic.
That's the groups.
We'll put some links or something up on the screen so they know how to connect, and we only want people that are teachers connecting. Okay, so
yeah, thanks
I'm
for
waggling
that.
my finger. It's a teachers network. It's a teachers network. No iffy stuff. Yeah, we had problems. There was a whole bunch of problems, Rich.
They're not going to read it. They're just going to see a link, click, scan codes, and try to. They're these scam guys. It's all right. We've managed to deal with them. I made a group for spammers so they could all just join in and like try to get money from each other.
Yeah, no, it was. We were part of groups. It was hilarious. But let's rewind a little bit, because we want to dive into Brandy's origin story, because we've kind of jumped ahead. We've gone a little bit Chris Nolan and non-linear. So can you take us back, please, Brandy? To
back in the day, 2005 it was. I was young, dumb, broke in America, and I've always wanted to travel. I actually thought I would go somewhere in South America because I loved Spanish and learned it quite quickly in school. My cat died, my car broke, I didn't get the promotion at the little crappy job I had like my whole life. Because again, like people are like, oh, I came to China to look at pandas and learn culture. No, you didn't. No, you did not, fool. You were not successful back home. Like anybody who's married with a wife and kids and a good business does not just go, I'm going to China tomorrow. Like, so yeah, I've heard that a lot. So yeah, life sucked, and my roommate was going to leave, so I was going to lose my house, my nice apartment. And he's going, I'm going to China to find a wife. And I'm like, well, good on you. Have fun. Like, let me know how that works out for you. Like China. And he's like, no, you should go, because like, you can be a teacher. And I'm like, I private tutored some kids when I was in college. Like, I'm not a teacher. No. You're American. It's cool. It's 2005. You're fine. They'll pay for plane tickets and all kind of shit. That back then, so it's like stuff. Do we bleep Brandy?
Oh no! It's uncensored.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Unless you particularly want to.
My mom's probably watching, so I'll be nice. So yeah, within a month, I was like, why not? Again, like I'll go get some experience, come back to. Now this is funny for Chinese learners. Like they want to go to America and go to college and come back and get a good job. I wanted that exact same thing out of China. Like I wanted to go learn a little bit of Chinese, like put it on a resume and be like, yeah, I traveled. I didn't know that it was a black hole, like a black mark on your resume. Oh, you went to travel abroad and teach English. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't.
Why'd you leave the USA?
Yeah. What you done doing that for, boy? I can get my southern accent on if you want, Mr. Brandy. So yeah, just within a month, I made the decision I free cycled everything in my house, which is like recycling but giving it away. Hopped on a plane and ended up in Guangdong and been here ever since. 14 years.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
It was, yeah, I went from training center to kindergarten to college teaching to working in a company to private tutoring these rich, spoiled kids. That was fun. I thought it was the first place I worked. I thought it was the place I worked that was horrible. Then I realized, oh, well, maybe it's just, the industry of training centers themselves. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, okay, this is, okay. So I went to work, I was just trying to find somewhere where teachers were actually respected. And I was like, because you kept hearing that in China, oh, they respect their elders and teachers. And I'm like, but I'm not getting that. Then I realized we weren't teachers, we were marketing tools. And that realization hit like month 8, like pretty early.
This is very relatable. You find this incredibly relatable, Neil. Like it's like a very
no, I mean,
story,
everyone we've been talking to, it's always kind of like this. It's the origin story of an English language teacher. Often, it doesn't start with I went to a university in Oxford and I studied English and all the classics, and then I moved to China.
I always wanted to be a language teacher.
Yeah, no. But you get the bug.
I quit pretty early on. Like after the first year and a half, I walked into a bar in Zhuhai, and this place was called Live Bar, and there was a picture of Kurt Cobain on the wall, and the singer was singing Radiohead. I was like, I'm gonna live here. I'm never leaving. Like, I mean, the bar, not China. Like just that bar. And again, like I'm 21 and I just, had finished with college and stuff. And in college, it wasn't a party school. It was a private Christian college. That's a whole nother episode. We'll get into that.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So I was like, okay, this is what life looks like. So I basically went to the College of Hard Knocks in Zhuhai for 2 years and got into some crazy shit. Because China, again, 14 years ago was a different China than today. They've really
I can imagine
changed.
I can imagine it was
rapid development
in many aspects. And from Zhuhai, there was this lawyer, Hong Kongese American lawyer judge guy who saw me speaking Chinese in the bar. He's like, "Wow, your Chinese is amazing. How long have you been here?" Almost 2 years. What? He's like, you speak better than my buddy who's like been here for 10 years. What the hell? Like, come work for me. I'm like, what am I going to do? He's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Come to Guangzhou. And I'm like, all right, Guangzhou sounds nice. I am from a small town. That means 2 or 3 red lights, 80 people in my graduating high school class, like small town. Guangzhou was incomprehensible.
It's like the size of a capital city
right.
In any country.
It's a whole country.
Yeah.
It's like a whole country. Yeah. Like it's Zhuhai. I kept saying Zhuhai's really big, and they're like, no, this is a small city. Then I got to Guangzhou and I understood what they meant. It was, inconceivable.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't go back to teaching until that lawyer thing didn't work out because he never gave me a job and he never gave me a contract. And it was like, you learn so many lessons. Like I'm one of those people who jumps on every opportunity to see what's going to happen. I just like once you take the jump into leaving your country flying across the world halfway, like everything else is just like peanuts to that.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, well, no, I can't be worse than what I initially did.
Yeah, like chicken feet. I've already been on a plane for 24 hours. I can handle chicken feet. Like I might as well, right? I didn't come over here to sit in front of TV and watch Friends and Lost at the time. Like every other American I met here was like, let's order McDonald's, sit in the apartment, and watch these fake DVDs we got, and I was like, but China, but like there's a China out there. Like, why would you? Why are you trying to recreate America in another country? That just never made sense to me. I mean, I get it for like some expats get sent here with their families and they don't want to be here and they've got this great job with those expat packages. Oh my goodness! Like I don't even know what life would be like over there in that part of town. Like where you have a 20,000 RMB apartment and 6 IEs and like I don't know.
You have like walled communities and stuff like that. Or is it not quite like that?
In Guangzhou, they have downtown areas which aren't walled, but they'll have like a small gate, I guess. It's not like.
But like all the kids go to private. Their kids will go to private schools, and the company will have someone that dedicated bat line where they call up and be like, oh, I've got this problem, and someone comes and solves it.
They import toilet paper. They won't use Chinese toilet paper. They have to have their brand from back home, and they can afford it. And I don't understand that life. But other than those people, like the teaching crowd, we're varied. And that's one thing I like though. Like when you say teachers, English teachers in China, or like it's just such a variety, even in that sphere. So.
Yeah, it's weird how we can't just we've talked to lots of people and we've got many friends from different around the world, and it's when you say, oh, I'm an English language teacher, that can mean so many things and so many different skill sets as well. I wouldn't put someone that was been teaching kindergarten in like a high school class, because they wouldn't. It would be like starting from scratch sometimes. But
in China, you're really expected to do it all. Like they don't. Oh, foreigner, yeah, you just go in that class and But I teach kindergarten. No, but it's fine. You'll do fine. Like, well, if I teach them like kindergartners. Luckily for me, I've learned how to view the world where everybody's a 5-year-old to me. Like I just see the inner child in everyone. I'm like, oh, he's drinking so much because he hasn't learned how to make peace with his life yet. Like a 5-year-old, wow. He's acting out. He's like, you haven't learned communication skills yet, so that's why you're screaming at me. I understand. I see the world through this 5-year-old lens. No, but I wasn't formally trained as a teacher. Like I said, I had taught and tutored students in high school and college and stuff. So I had some teaching experience. That's totally on my resume. Let's go with that. I didn't have a TEFL. Not gonna lie. I got it after I got here because that's what you do, right? Like it was, I did. I had to do it twice because somebody copied my answers, and they put me down as the one that copied, and I got pissed because I didn't know the other dude had copied my answers. Like he just took it out my notebook, and that was like failing the TEFL. That's there's your expose.
No, I don't think we've not spoken to anyone yet that's.
No one gets it before they.
Yeah, gets it before.
Yeah, even like Patrick, he said he was just randomly teaching people in France, and me and you, when we went, we didn't. I was teaching for 2 years before I took the CELTA. It's almost like because to start with, it's like you say, your plan is not necessarily that you're going to long term do this teaching job. You just I'll go over there, have this experience, and then over time you start to think, should I do this qualification? Oh, but if I do that, it's an investment, and then Well, it's like you're buying in.
I started feeling guilty. For me, it wasn't about like that. It was just like I would see these parents, and then the more I learned Chinese, the more I learned about the culture, and the more I learned about the culture, the more of an asshole I felt. Like like I just don't want to. Like my whole life philosophy is don't be an asshole. Like that's every religion. I used to love studying different religions, and so I basically found out the golden rule is don't be an asshole. Like it's pretty simple from every religion there is. It's pretty standard. So that's my religious theories. And I just felt like.
Can you speak more about this Chinese culture that you with the parents? What was it that made you feel?
Well, guilty? I mean, they just that they put all of their hopes in the future on their children because poor retirement planning.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like we need our kids to have a successful job so that when I get old, they'll take care of me. So that's a lot of the thinking. So they'll invest everything into their kids when they're young. So, well, I need to have English classes. I need to have this classes. So to get the money for this kind of stuff, you know, then they have to work all the time. Now, as educators, we all know the best teacher is the parent, and it starts in the home.
Yeah.
So whereas we would think it's like, don't take so many classes, just spend more time with your kid. You know, don't worry about your kid being like the #1 best student in a country of bazillions of people. Like you're playing the lottery there, bro. So like just spend time with your kid and teach them to be good humans is not something that happens here a lot in the culture.
Yeah.
It's very high pressured. So I just felt like if I didn't make myself a better teacher, I was wasting their money. And these people, their whole lives depended on this.
Yeah.
Like their whole future. And I watched them spend money on these places with these teachers that would show up drunk or hungover or both, or, it was just, I was disgusted by it. I'm like, at that point I hadn't learned that the bosses of the schools had set up the system where they didn't care about education. It was a business. I thought the bosses wanted to provide a service to the community and get paid for it in education. Very different thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
No,
that's what
I completely agree with you, Brandy. And, it's heartbreaking that, you've got these parents that, they want to spend time with their kids, but, they've got to think about their future, and they work so much and they work so hard, and that money, I'm not going to say often, but it can go to, teachers that don't deserve it because they're not putting that same amount of effort that the parents are putting in,
and not even the teachers. It's like it goes to the institution or app now or online class now that has the best marketing. Like this kind of goes into me running a school for altogether 10 years, I guess. 10-ish years. Like having to deal with the struggle of being an educator, wanting the best for the people, for the kids, and then having to deal with the parents who have been lied to in marketing for years. Yeah. Take this pill, you'll lose 30 pounds in 5 hours. Like that's the same thing they do with English here. It's the whole, learn 3,000 words in 30 days and travel to any country.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm sure that it's a bit more Wild West in China, but it was very similar in Spain, wasn't it, Neil? When we got there, and I don't even know if it's changed now. It's very much based on appearances, So people would set up these institutions with like glass-fronted classrooms, so you could walk past from the outside, see the Northern European-looking people teaching. Basically that's it. Teaching writing things on the board and everything, and people were paying for that. They were paying for that appearance. But those places, they'll hire anyone. You just walk in and say, "Hello, I'm English." Okay, you're hired. And they'll pay you peanuts because obviously, why would they not? And then they say, "There's a classroom. Go and teach someone." So it does actually sound quite similar in that respect.
Yeah. Well, there's been a few changes I've seen. Where the schools were realizing that wasn't good for long-term, business. So there was a school, I forget the name, they actually started scripting the classes for the teachers. So they would still do the same thing, hire anybody, pay them peanuts. But now instead of letting them slack off on their job, it's like you have to follow this script and do these things. So I was like, well, that's just
another way that they do that is course books, getting teachers to stick rigidly to, course books and materials.
But even that, I'm talking like the next step up. I'm talking literally word for word. Hi, students. My name is, welcome to class. This is our book. We will, they got it scripted. You don't have any freedom. And again, for a new teacher or a new not teacher, to show up, that's great. And I think that works. And that's a business model. And it can't be any worse than, again, like some guy showing up, hungover, going out the ball, cat dog. Good kids, so it's take what you can get sometimes.
I think one thing that we've not talked about before previously is the difficulty for parents because often with parents they don't have that English background, or maybe they don't come from an educated background, especially like in Asia. Maybe not so much what we found in Spain, but how do they decide how do they pick a good school? Because even the education system, in England, I mean, I wouldn't, thinking back, I wouldn't say, yeah, I've had the best the teachers that I had were great teachers, so it's really interesting. And the way that we have, I don't know about America, but the UK system for schools,
well, we got some problems.
Yeah.
We got a few
American
little things to be
schools
fixed.
problems?
No way. But you're like in the UK, you're in a catchment area, so you go to the school that you're in the area where you live, and you don't really have a choice on that.
Catchment area, isn't it? It's a big. It is.
Yeah.
A,
So
it is a hot topic for parents.
We have that. We have that. And in China as well. That's why the real estate prices near good schools are extremely stupid, because you have to have that address. You don't have to live there. You just have to have that address on the application. So that's a good way to make money if you want to be a real estate agent. Find a good school. Work in that area.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm sure it does vary country by country, but I think education overall is, it's oversimplified, isn't it? And it's an incredibly complex and difficult. It's one of those rabbit holes you can just keep going down. It's like teaching. When I first saw it, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, teaching. It's. You do this, you do that, you do the other. And then as you get into it, you realize there's just more branches on the tree that you can explore. It just goes on and on and on.
Well, for me, what I noticed was like they tried to make everything, factory style, systematic. Doesn't matter what comes in, we all want to have the same product come out. And that's where my school, I kind of modeled it differently. And the original name was Apple Seeds, which you cannot register in China anything with the word Apple in it. Thank you, Apple. So Apple Seeds basically was based around the Johnny Appleseed thing in America, a myth, folklore, the guy walking around planting apples, whatever, the first nature vegan guy, I guess. They've traced their roots back to him. Anyways, so I wanted to plant the seeds of education, of like natural, organic type of learning, where you weren't trying to produce some robot who just made test answers, or I'm fine, thank you, and you, I'm fine, thank you, and you. Like we all see that as for day one, like, good morning, teacher, how are you? I'm fine. So like I wanted them, again, and parents didn't understand organic or holistic, these words. So I learned Chinese, like I said, very quickly. So by year 3, and I'd started teaching private classes on my own in my apartment, was kind of the origins of my school. I was having these discussions with parents about like what learning actually was. I'm like, in China, the marketing has taken it apart, and there's there's two different destinations you can go with language. You can be a linguistics professor who knows all these grammar rules and teach it to other people and study it as a language, or you can use it, right? The test that they have in China is neither of those things. It's just regurgitation of facts, like every other subject. Like they don't want you to apply anything, basically. They just want you to remember, repeat, put it out. Who got the best? Great. We now sorted you into categories and go have a life, whatever. So the testing system, which is, I think we can blame Confucius for. I think I've studied long enough to hear people mention his name.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, like setting up this testing system for them. So it's okay. We're not going to change that. China's not going to change that. That's not going to change. So how do you work within that broken system to produce someone who can use the language but still have that knowledge to come out for a test? That's basically what I did for my school. I never saw it as opening a school. It was research and development for my game, for my system, for my teaching. Like it was like, okay, I'm going to try this, and it's going to, oh, that worked, oh, that didn't. So I taught myself how to teach. Like people go to college for 4 years or take courses. I just did it learned by doing, like, and
just research and development, testing them out. Oh, this didn't work with the kids. This worked with the kids.
I downloaded all the materials I could find, like textbooks, courses, online thing, like anything I could find about how to be a better teacher, like in language or this, just in general. I read nonstop for 5, 6, 7 years, and then applied it to how I saw it with Chinese learners who were unique in a lot of ways, and then just kind of built my own system out of it. I said, okay, this works for me. I tutored some Chinese teachers to kind of follow my method so I could see, was it me as a foreigner who was the special thing, or was it the system itself? Was it able to produce the same results? So I did a lot of like that kind of testing, A and B testing in my school, you know.
I can understand the appeal from a sort of teacher's perspective as why you would want to work in a school like that as well. You know, it offers you great opportunities for professional development, doesn't it? To be in a school where you're encouraged to try these different sort of approaches and methodologies and try different things.
I never hired a teacher, I think, who appreciated that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought, as you know, as a teacher, if you want to develop yourself, you know, being able to try different approaches is one of the sort of best things. You know, certainly what I was looking for when I was early in my career.
But it's hard if I told you to like come hang out in my apartment and do that, as opposed to go work downtown in a glass building with like, you know, a contract. You know,
okay.
Like people didn't trust. Like, who is this Brandy? What's going on? I'm like, just trust the money. Like, look at me paying you a whole lot more than you can, you know, like just trust that part, please. Like, I don't know. It was in the beginning that was hard, and then when I moved to Shunda, which is a city outside of Guangzhou, so I went from Zhuhai, Guangzhou, and then after my first kind of school startup business with some foreigners and a Chinese fiance bombed, I packed up and went to go work again out of the education field, and I worked in Midea, the appliance company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I worked there as I was going to be marketing, and I was going to get trips back to America, and I was going to do all this cool sales and marketing stuff, and I love that part too. And then the boss was like, oh no, I need to practice my English. You sit in my office. Okay, so now you're my English teacher. Thanks. Like, I was this close to an actual real job that I could go back to America. And this is like year 4 or 5. So I was like, you know what? You know, I've done the teaching. I've done this learning. I've got this thing I wanted. Oh, it's not working. There's just been so many like climb ups and starts and restarts. And like, I'm very flexible. I've learned to be quite resilient here. So people will sign a contract with you one day and break it the next. Like, you just...
Yeah, I'm getting that impression. Yeah, certainly see, like before I used the term Wild West, it kind of has that feeling about it, especially with the working conditions.
It's kind of, if you know to expect it's going to be broken, then you're not surprised by it. It's like, fine. Like I was telling someone the other day, like she was planning this event, and I said, okay, well, you know, just go ahead and have some backup plans, because this is China. Like, this is just straight up China stuff where... And again, I don't know. I haven't been in other countries, so I'm stereotyping here. I'm sorry. This is my experience of China. You plan something, and no matter what someone has told you or promised you, at a moment's notice, it could change. So just go ahead and get that in your heart, because I don't want you to get all built up and have these expectations and have them dashed, honey. And so this is how I mentor new people to China, and it breaks a lot of them. Their brains just go, but that's not the way it works. I'm like, unless it is.
That's a cool.
What I think is great training for the classroom, though, because nothing ever goes to plan in a classroom. So.
Neil, tomorrow you have a demo class. How many kids? We don't know. What ages are they? We're not sure. What topic? Whatever you like. It's like, what class? What do I have in the classroom?
Numerous times.
Yeah.
I'm like,
learning how to be flexible is like.
Is that all you got? Is that all you got? I don't even know the location. I don't even need to know the location.
like I have become invincible with those kind of, like, I can walk into any class, any situation and teach. Like, not even like students anymore. Like, I can teach to chairs.
You're like
if I had to.
You're the Bear Grylls of the teaching world.
That's great. I'm the MacGyver. Give me a paperclip and I'll get test results.
You need a meme to pop up when you say that, Neil. Make sure you edit that in.
I'm definitely gonna add that. Awesome. Just like Brandy parachuting into war zones, just picking up a rock from the ground. What is this? And throws it over there. What is that? That.
Exactly what it feels like. You have to be a wilderness survivalist to really prosper here. And now I'm venturing. So the school. We're going through the timeline. So the school in Shunda went through again. Its partners, its ups and downs. It's my wonderful life lessons. So much like you, I also, as you stay here long enough, you want to fall in love, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to do you see all your friends on Facebook having these lives, and you're like, should I still be in the bar at 5 o'clock in the morning? Like, what's going on? Like, this is not normal, is it? I'm too old for this shit, but I don't have any other shit to do, so we'll just keep doing this shit. There's not a lot of options back in the day. So now there's like gyms and sports clubs and game board things, and there's just like, people don't know how lucky they are. I don't hang out with new people because I don't want to be that guy that's like, well, in my day we didn't even have translators. Like, what is this shit? Like,
they have Nutella. China.
They have Nutella in supermarkets. They have sticks of cheese in 7-Eleven. They have we didn't even have cocktails, for God's sakes. We had to make our own rum and cokes. It was crazy. So yeah, it's just now I'm getting out of the teaching and going more into business, and that's again a new set of things I'm learning.
Before we go into the business part, you mentioned about your teaching methodology that you taught to other teachers to see how it worked and stuff. Could you elaborate more on that? Without revealing all the secrets.
Oh no, I will. Please steal my methods. Right, I'm gonna write that book that's like, steal this book, steal this, do this because it works, and I want everybody to speak English, and this is my whole goal. Steal me. Basically, textbooks, how they're set up, right? I've come to call this the hamburger theory. Mm-hmm. They're set up so that Unit 1 is your bread, Unit 2 is your lettuce, Unit 3 is your tomatoes, what have you. And then you review those, you talk about that lettuce and tomatoes and bread that you had, and then you teach them meat, and you go on and so forth. Then at the end of the year, you ask them, how was your hamburger? And they're like, what's a hamburger? I just had some lettuce and some bread and shit. Like, what's a hamburger? They don't know, because the textbooks, very seldom have I found any books that I like. I love Potato Pals. I'll get back to that. But like, very seldom do they build on each other, or like each chapter. And then with the school textbooks in particular, the ones they use that I've seen, grade 3 is still learning good morning teacher, ruler, whatever. It's like, did they not learn that already? Why are we? Yeah. So I'm confused about it. And then suddenly they get to grade 7 and it's like, boom, here's some paragraphs. Like, they went from it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take any book, anything, like you said, I just take whatever the parents or the students are learning from or need, and I adapt it. And I've taught my teachers to do this, where you take what's important to them first, and then what's in their lives, and then what's outside of their lives, right? And to recircle. There's a lot of different TPRS methods. If you've looked into that before, I like the way they do a lot of stuff. Like I was doing a lot of these things that I didn't know had names, and I still don't know the names. I didn't go to college. I can't tell you what the names of the theories are. I can just tell you, like a 5-year-old, how to do it. And I'm terrible at training teachers for this reason, because they want to know, well, what's this called and what does that mean? And I'm just saying, just follow me, just do what I do. Right? That's how I teach. I model everything, I guess. So just restructuring the textbooks was the first thing. Using, again, what's kids' psychology to understand what their limits are and what they're capable of doing, because I find a lot of people try to play games that are outside of what a kid can actually do. Like, they're 3-year-olds. The games they like to play are called put it in the box, dump it out of the box.
Yeah, right? it's true.
Well, that is a massive element of what often fails in young learner classrooms, and people have classroom management issues. They don't realize it's because they're asking tiny children to do something that they can't cognitively understand.
Physically can't. Yeah. It's just making sure that there's age appropriateness in the materials and the activities, adapting the materials to fit that kind of thing. Because what do kids care about first? They don't care about elephants. They care about, my name is, I don't like. right? That's it. They care about that they're selfish. Kids are selfish. I love it.
Yeah.
Then they kind of learn about, oh, wait, I've got these other people in my life. So then we teach them about family, friends, school, daily schedules. And then on the outside of that, now we're going to talk about stuff, because this is how I learned Chinese. Like I said, I learned Spanish in school and I learned Chinese on the streets. Guess which one I speak fluently? You know, so like being able to compare and contrast how I learned Spanish is the exact same way they teach English in China, exact same method in America. And then like seeing how I learned Chinese in a different way, I learned what I needed. The first thing I learned was ice in the water, please. Right? No bones in the meat. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm allergic to fish, you know, and all these kind of things. So I applied that to how like the kids were learning. And then games, you literally just say the word game. You don't have to play a game, right? Let's play a game, peekaboo, right? It's not a game, but you say the word game, kids are all into it. So keeping their motivation high. And then parents, how did I deal with parents and all that was just tell them, well, you know, your kids at the end of the day, do they go home speaking? They would say, what are your kids learning today? What are my kids learning today? And they wanted that like textbook answer. You know, we learned apple, I like apples. Do you like apples? Yes or no? Like, this is what we learned. And I would just look at them and say, English. No, but what did you teach? I'm like, English. And what part of it? All of it. Like listening, speaking, reading, writing, phonics, STEM. Like you give me a marketing word, it was in my class, right? You know, like, so, and then the way we structure the class, again, kids need structure because it makes them feel safe, and they need repetition so that they can have enough listening practice and stuff. But then how do you say that same thing for 3 months without making kids feel bored? Right. So how do you do that? That's one of the biggest challenges. And I teach the teachers. So like it's got to level up. It's like, and this is where the gamification system came in. Like you've got to level it up. When all the kids can do it easily, don't do it again. Move up, right? Make it more challenging. And then you can personalize this. So little Timmy over here.
Do you mean sorry to interrupt. Do you mean the language you level up?
The language.
Or the games, the language?
The language itself.
Right. Okay.
So I made my center into a perfect model of what I wanted it to be in a classroom. I don't teach 50 kids. I see your videos and I'm just like, oh man, I could not do what you do. Like,
well, I mean, you know, I really, everything you say just hits all my points. And you know, I'm sure Rich agrees. Do you agree?
Yeah. About specifically what? I mean, certainly, you know, it sounds very much to me like what Brandy's talking about is very similar. You remember when I talked about the kind of the matrix, the rationale matrix that you sort of learn when you do TILAC? And I was saying that if you hit all the points on that matrix, then it solves all your classroom management issues. And basically the points on that matrix are things like, you know, the cognitive ability of the students, the level ability, the level of interest. These seem to be like all the things that you're basically talking about, right?
Yeah, it's for me, like a lot of people hate teaching kids because they can't control them. And my first reaction is they're not meant to be controlled, right? You're supposed to lead them into this interesting thing that they want to do. You give them the choices. Like I teach parents about the choices. I'm like, okay, you want them to eat vegetables, right? They don't want to eat vegetables. So you give them a choice. Do you want to eat 1 or 5? One. I just want to eat 1, right? Letting them have that autonomy in the classroom and being able to make choices, right? Will cut out a lot of the like behavior problems. And the other problem is the language, like not being able to speak Chinese. A lot of teachers don't understand Chinese, and that co-teaching is a whole other bag of worms you got to deal with.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch. A lot of the stuff.
Can of worms. Oh my God, my English is shit.
It's fine. I mean, yeah, I was gonna just compliment you again because you know the way that Brandy runs her classroom is what I would love to be able to do with mine. But you know, like Brandy mentioned, I've got 50 plus kids and I'm stuck with the course book. So I basically try to do what I can with that and try to provide some way for you know other teachers that get thrown in to kind of copy that and just move it on. But
my dumbass tried to use my theory in a public school once.
I mean, you kind of, I mean, I just.
I think it's possible. I think, you know, like I said, the the content of the book doesn't have to be taught in that order. For foreign classes, for foreign teacher classes, we get a lot of freedom, right, in a public school.
Yeah.
But the problem is we get absolutely no power and support. Yeah. So like I came up with a point system and we made them into teams and we had little leaders, and like the first week things were going well. I'm rocking it. I'm going, oh, it will work. Doesn't have to be 8 kids. I can duplicate this. I'm bringing in the games and the points. Oh, it's rocking out. And then when the kids realized that I didn't have those like cards they use to control them at school.
Yeah.
You got a red card, you got a green card, or like when I didn't have any of those, I was irrelevant. Everything fell to shit. I'm like, okay, so, and I spoke Chinese to them, so it wasn't like I couldn't do classroom management. It's just I lacked that one thing that they paid attention to, and the teacher wouldn't support you. Mm-hmm. No support from teachers, no way to like control the kids in that one thing that they actually care about. It doesn't matter how good of a teacher you are. You're not gonna.
You've not had enough of a chance. You've not had enough of a chance to, to demonstrate that, by doing, by coming to your class and doing it your way, that they actually learn English and they can use it and it's fun. So it's just, if you get a little bit more time, you kind of get it. So it's more intrinsic and they start to love it more. But yeah, I mean. It's so difficult. But one of the things that I was thinking when you were talking was, a lot of the stuff, it's almost like parenting, which is really interesting, especially with teaching with young kids, because I think you do have to kind of keep that in mind, that you're a teacher, but also you're kind of like almost a parental figure in the psychology that you have to use and kindness that you give as well.
Yeah, I play big sister role, and I just let them know, because there's always this fear of parents here for most children and the stress the parents give them. So I let them know. The students I've had the longest went from middle grade in kindergarten, so that's 4 years old, to middle school with me. So 6-7 years. These students, I watched these kids grow up. It was amazing, and letting them come to me when they had stress in school, they would open up about everything, and just hearing what a second grader worries about would surprise you in China. When you can really to have those deep conversations with them, and then by the time they got to 4th grade, we were having these deep conversations in English. It was just amazing to me.
It must be so rewarding.
That is the feeling. That is when the kid picks up the thing on the ground that's the treasure they found, and they bring it to you. That hug, that picture they draw, and then with older students, it's that conversation of I can't really talk to my mom about this, but that's when you hit the teaching gold. You're yeah.
Yeah, and they do it all in English as well, and then you're like, hey, by the way, you've just done all of that in English, and they're like, no way, fuck you.
I have an old video. I want to see if I can dig up for you. It's my 1st graders. They had studied for 2 years with me, and we had a rule that when you come into the classroom, no Chinese. And this is before class started, and they had an argument at school that day. So they had been arguing as they walked in the door, and you could just watch them change into English. And one of the kids' English was better than the other. So the other one was he say, like me, and you too口水 on his beihou, and why and they're just it's just all over the place. But it's they're having this argument in English, and that's when I realized I had something special about the way I was teaching. I was doing the apple, ball, dog, cat, flip the flashcards, read the books. I was following the way that everybody was doing it when I started as well. But then as I changed and I started to see, and then all this stuff, I was like, oh wait, I've got something different. I've never seen 1st graders argue in English. So what is it that I'm doing is working in that made that happen? And then I just, that's how my research and development kind of kicked off. It was really great.
Yeah, I mean, to use the sort of academic terminology, it sounds like you were doing a lot of action research as you went. In fact, it sounds like you started off pretty much doing action research, right? Because when you were in your apartment, you were trying out different methodologies and testing it and then reflecting on it. It's pretty much what they encourage you to do in the Delta or the Trinity diploma, right? That's what you basically learn, is you kind of refine yourself. No, it's fantastic, right? Yeah. So what elements specifically do you think got those kids to have that kind of communicative ability?
teaching them the words that they wanted to say and not what was in a book. And letting them know it was okay to make mistakes. Those are the two biggest factors. Like creating a safe space, if you will. Like, so. And these are kids that I taught 1 hour each lesson 3 times a week or 2 times a week. Most of them were 3 times a week. So just 3 hours a week, and being able to create that. Like I tried to push everything that you would do in a kindergarten into an hour of a class. And I know that sounds ridiculous. So my best friend, let me talk about her for a second. She studied education in America, and she came over to China my 4th year here, her and her husband, and she started to teach kindergarten kids for me. And I was so excited to have a real teacher, because I'm not a real teacher, of course. You know, I just know how to do it. I didn't have paperwork. So I thought I could learn so much for her. She's screaming at the kids, and she's telling me things like, you can't have them sit there for 15 minutes and just talk. They need to get up. 10 minutes is the limit. Like, that's what happens. And she was just telling me all these theories and these words, and she's telling me how wrong I am because that's not how you teach. And I'm like, my kids seem to be doing all right. Proof in the pudding kind of thing. Like, your kids are terrified of you. So I don't know, maybe I'm a better teacher than you. It didn't work out, not because of that reason. Not because of that, other stuff. But.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you know, that was one of the reasons that we kind of started this podcast in our channel, was because there's a lot of stuffiness around education, and just because you don't have the qualifications, you're often disregarded, you know, out of the conversation. And I just,
that's why I had to start my own damn network.
The best teachers I've come across are those that have gone through that school of hard knocks, that have done that action research, that reflect on their teaching and what worked, what didn't, and they evolve. And you know, sometimes they go up and pick the certificates to go along with it, sometimes they don't. But you know, the proof is in the pudding. It's just, you know,
and that's what I want Teachers House Network to be, is a place where, you know what, you're fresh off the boat, you're not a native speaker, you know, people look down on you, they pay you less, they treat you like crap, you know, other teachers don't even like respect you, like you're here, and if you want to work hard and you want to evolve and you want to learn, you need a place for that. You need someone to help you for that. And I want to be that place, because there was no place for me, right? Nobody helped me out. So this is the pay it forward thing. You're like, I want to create that space where if you want to learn, there's someone who'll guide you through that. But I'm not going to spoon feed anybody. If you just want to come here, pick up a paycheck, and, you know, like I said, you know, be that asshole that wastes parents' money, ain't got time for you, there's other places for that, you know.
And I can definitely concur and validate. The Brandy Teacher with Teachers House Network has definitely done that. Helps so many teachers. I don't have the time as much to engage with teachers nowadays, but I always send them towards Brandy and her network when they're in China, and you know, they always.
And I like to send people back out of the network too. I think that's something that's really made the network strong, and something I need to get back on top of, because we'll get to that part of the story later. But I'd like to, you know, reestablish a lot of the connections that I had before, because I can't do everything, and I definitely can't do it on my own. Like, this is my little piece of the puzzle, and like you know, the public school stuff, I'm like, I don't know, out of my realm. Go check out this YouTube videos, because I can't do that. But here's someone who I think does it really well. And I think if all these people connect together and go, okay, well, I don't know about visas and legal stuff, but, you know, go talk to that guy, go talk to this person, and then that's the whole networking part. You know, like, everyone validates everybody else by, you know, this person's high quality, and they only deal with high quality people, you know. But sometimes diplomas get in the way.
I hear that's how it's done in business.
Yeah.
Speaking of business,
apparently,
I believe that you were talking about, that was your next step.
Yeah. So I stopped teaching and trained the teachers and let them kind of do things as Teachers House, the shop, kind of evolved. That grew out of a failed physical stationery shop that my ex-husband kind of piddled around with and pissed me off about. It's like, suddenly I have all this back stock and nowhere to sell it. And I'm like, well, I know, like, you know, 5,000 teachers online. Let me see if they want some stuff. And then it grew and grew. And this is before Bow Pals. I love those guys. They've helped me out a lot to deal with a lot of people that used to call me and say, "Hey, can you help me sample in Taobao?" No, I'm not your person to help. But we were helping people do that, find teaching resources and stuff, and that's when I realized there was a market for it. I was like, well, if you're going to complain about stuff, you can pay me to do this as a service instead of me just being nice and doing it for free like I usually do. When people start bitching, then I want money for it. Otherwise, I'll do stuff for free. I don't care. So that grew into Teacher's House. So as the school was like solidifying, I grew that up for 2 or 3 years with different Chinese partners that do not have the same marketing style as Americans. I'm, like I said, I'm a homegrown kind of girl where I just like, word of mouth marketing, I think is more valuable than anything you ever pay for. And I wasn't focused on like, low cost, high profit items so I could have this, profit margin. I was like, what do teachers need? What works? What would I use in my classroom? How do I get it to people? And that's been the driving factor. If we wouldn't use it in our classroom, we won't sell it to you. Right?
Yeah.
And, just trying to hold that down with a small team of 4 to 6 people has been murder. Like, it's just one of the most painful I've never had a child, but I'm going to relate it to possibly something up in that pain level, because in China, again, like just Chinese partners, investors, the legal system here, registering companies, like everything is just a process that is beyond painful. I miss America in this aspect that they've got all these resources for small business owners. They've got all these processes and websites and services that just boom, start a business, get some money in there, work hard, you'll be rich one day. Like China does not have that, and people here don't have that mentality, and it's been a constant struggle.
When I was there, it sounded like a battle between the old mindset and the new mindset, and it's still a transition. They have contracts, but they're often just pieces of paper. But they've got the government's trying to enforce it, but it's just not. They just don't have enough to do it. There's too many people, and they're all like, "No, I think it'd be better if we just had a drink, and we'll agree over a drink and a handshake, and the paper comes later."
But like company structure, that's something that I think came from the military originally in America. Like companies were structured with the boss and the leaders and the generals and the army and the, and in China it's like that. And, you're a cog in the machine. And in China, there's many more cogs. So you break, we just replace you. Like you're not valued as workers. So trying to create a company where people don't work 9 to 5. And I'm like, you know what? Your friend got married, go to that wedding. Yeah, but do I have my days off? And like, I'm just like, no. It's being more flexibility is hard for some people here, and I'm too flexible for most. So I just adapt and flexible all over the place, and they don't get it. It's rough for people to work with me, I guess.
Yeah,
I apologize to all my former my former partners and friends and everyone who's ever tried to work with me. I'm still learning. Thank you for all that, and my shout out. I put people through the ringer, I know. And then emotionally, again, living here, I got married and to a local Cantonese guy. I don't have any kids. I'm not able to have kids. So in China, that's a whole cultural bag of worms. Yeah. And then that kind of, as your life reflects on your business, that kind of tore down Teacher's House for a bit. As I was at the bottom of a very deep hole. There were a lot of people supporting me though, like people I'd never met, like you, like we've never met, like physically in person. And like, there's just been, a lot of people that kept me going to say like, Brandy, we need Teacher's House. You can't die. Like, just keep going. Like, we need you. The world needs you. Please don't let this be it just because you're sad about some guy that broke your heart ish. That's putting it simply, so like get back up, fight another day. You can do this. And again, people that I just met through teaching groups, like that's when I realized the power of this network I had created because it worked for me. Like,
right.
It gave back.
That's amazing.
It gave back.
Yeah. So thank you for all my members in that.
Yeah, I mean, when you go through those kind of experiences, you really realize, how critical it is to have those kind of support networks, and you can only imagine where you would have been without them, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the whole other part of so I never wanted to just sell books to teachers, and I got really hurt when I started to charge money for some of the things I'd done for free. So people were like, oh, she's just a bookseller. She's just going to spam the group with her stuff. We don't want you in here. There's an anti-Brandy hate group on WeChat. I hope that's still open. That makes me so happy. Yeah. Like, she's such a bitch. She kicked me out of her group for breaking her rules. And she's, like, I love those guys.
Community management is such a difficult issue, though. It's so difficult. You can't keep everybody happy. It's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, but you've got I'm the dumbass that tries.
the Facebook and Twitter guys, getting a grilling in front of the Congress in the US. So you're just one person trying to run some community groups there. Yeah, you don't have all these psychologists and moderators like they have, and you're probably doing a better job, to be honest.
I wanted teachers not just to have a place to shop and find what they need, but also get that mental health check, because so many of the teachers in our network are alone in God knows what city, God knows where in China, and that's a lot of pressure. The reason teachers don't stay in China very long, Chinese schools have asked me about that, and they say, well, it's hard to live in China, and they want more money, and they don't like China. I said, no. They come here with a very open mindset, or they wouldn't be here. But it closes very quickly when they don't have someone to support them, and the schools offer nothing. The agents, don't get me started on agents. The meat sellers, they give you nothing. So it's like, before WeChat, man, it was damn near impossible. Right? WeChat has really saved, I think, a lot of people more than they realize, because it allows you to find those people that you can. One of my favorite groups in our Teachers House network has recently opened. It's called the Rant Room. Now, I had a group called Healthy and Happy, and that was for like vegan recipes and like yoga retreats and positive memes and those people. But then I realized we had this whole other group of people that chit chat was just a little too bland for them. They needed to really let it all out, about their bosses and that kid in class and that parent they deal with. And so that's our most active group, and the strongest community, I think, is between them, where they're just allowed to pretty much do whatever, as long as I don't get legally kicked out of China, because there are laws. But like they go pretty hard at China in there, and I said no judging. I don't want to hear anybody say, well, if you don't like it, go home. It's okay to not like China or not like your student in this room. It's okay to not like stuff here. So just let it out. And I think that's actually, again, been the most positive community we have.
Well, everyone's in the trenches together, right? And like you said, often people are alone, and especially if they're out in the sticks, like Shunde or something like that, and they're the.
Oh, Shunde's not the sticks. It's all right. We have Starbucks.
Yeah. But like they're the only white person, or the only foreigner,
black person,
only foreigner in the village. I'll just say that instead. Sorry.
Yeah.
And to be able to communicate with someone and share that, because everything's stacked against you in many regards, especially with how it is in the classroom as well. It's an essential service. It might actually be more important than the
more
teaching
than books?
aspect.
Shh. Yeah.
Oh my God! I don't burn the books. Don't burn the books. But you still need them.
But not more than glass-fronted classrooms, obviously.
Oh yeah. No, I really hate selling books. I'm a hypocrite. I don't use books in my classroom. The only books I use, Potato Pals, right? Because
Patrick Jackson.
They're freaking amazing, man. Like, and I think they use my favorite. What's her name? Who does the jazz chants? Carolyn Graham. Did they use her songs in that? She's the one that wrote those.
I think maybe. I'm not gonna.
I don't remember.
I'll confirm
I've used
it
some of.
on
that's
the
Tiny
video
Talk.
later.
I think Oxford did Tiny Talk with her stuff. Anyways, I want to marry both of those people. Here's why. So Potato Pals is a picture and then a sentence, and that's it. And the parents go, "This is not a textbook," and I'm like, "No, this is better." Because all the kids in my class are at different levels, and I can adapt this so fast, and it's so easy for them to look at. They're not overwhelmed by translations of words or like lists of things. It's not trying to be over cute. It's just the right amount of cute. It's not like the artwork in it. And then what they've done is add in each picture, in addition to the sentence that they're teaching, like in the morning I brush my teeth. There's like what was that one? There's just so much in the picture, like hot and cold on the faucets, and there's like how many bubbles are floating off the soap, and the word soap is written there, so you can, how do you spell soap? Like you can just, as a person who loves to adapt, that is basically my Swiss Army knife of textbooks for kids. Like I can teach it to 1-year-olds and 10-year-olds. I got it. Like I love that book, like nonstop.
Yeah, we had an absolute blast speaking with Patrick.
I'm gonna go back and watch that. I'm sorry. Put the link up for me later.
I will do, and I highly suggest you check out his YouTube channel as well, and his video on how he came to actually produce Potato Pals. Because I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but
no spoilers. I'm excited. This is how much of a teacher geek I am.
You're gonna absolutely love it. I can't remember what the name of the video is. But it's talking about his a brown envelope. Search for Patrick Jackson brown envelope, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, Potato Pals, I didn't get the pleasure to actually teach with. I did Everybody Up, which I thought is a fantastic course book, and he uses a lot of principles similar to you with how he's building the course books as well. What he's doing right now with the Picker Pals, you should check out that stuff, because I would love to see how that is applied in China. He basically he has this thing where he's in Ireland right now, and he goes to the beach, and stuff get washed up onto the beach, and he collects it, and basically he takes it into the classroom, and like they talk about where it came from, and stories, and uses that as just materials and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of stories have come from that, and he's made a cape with all the stuff, but it's cool. Fantastic. I'd love to see how that would be applied in China, because I think the kids would absolutely love it. Be like, oh yeah, but then all the parents would be like, why are they picking up all this trash? And
yeah, well, okay, so here's something that I've learned that I want other people to know how to do. It's how to please the parent and get what you want done. Right, okay. It is possible.
How do we marry to those?
There is a system of white lies, right? We all tell white lies from time to time. It's necessary. In China, foreigners don't understand that their white lies are a little bit different than ours. So, for example, you're waiting on a bus. It just left. You ask the guy beside you, "Hey, have you seen bus number 5?" And he goes, "Nope." He doesn't want you to feel sad or disappointed, right? He doesn't know the answer to the next questions you're going to ask, like what time is the next bus or blah blah blah. Let's just assuming he's a helpful guy anyways, not just like whatever. So he just tells you no straight up, and then you find out because you see it going over there. You're like, that guy lied to me. He just straight up lied to me. Why would he lie to me? What did he do that for? He didn't. He was saving your face. So the saving face thing. So with parents, you have to lie to them. It's not called a lie in my mind. I've justified this. What I'm doing is telling them what they need to hear so I can get my job done, because the results are the same. Doesn't matter how I get there. You want your kid to pass the test, all right? And you hope that he can speak English, but that's not really top on their list, right? So, like if it happens, great. But my kid's kind of dumb, so it's probably not going to happen. But whatever. I don't have time to give him extra practice, so that's why I'm paying you money to take care of that. Whatever. So what I found out is if I just lie to them straight up in the beginning, I pull out textbooks. I'm like, yeah, I use this book. And now I do. I use books to develop that adapted coursework that I do.
Right.
Right. So it's like, yeah, so I use this book. Look at all those words in that book. Oh, don't you love that name? That says Oxford. That's cool. We like that. Ooh, new concept English. Ooh, it's pretty. Right. Oh, we love this. Okay, so that's what we teach here. Yeah. And then, like I said, when they asked me, well, what did you teach this lesson? Oh, I like apples. Now, I also taught like 500 other sentences and practiced 10,000 other skills. But, I realized that what the books are there for is to please parents. They have nothing to do with what you should actually be doing in the classroom. The books are tools for parents. Done. That's my secret to how I get things done and like make parents happy. So I'm starting to teach games, and that's what I have to do is like I show them. I'm like, see all these words? Look at this book. That's the word on this card that I made. See how that works? Same thing. Like I can have the kid and write it on the whiteboard and have them say it 100 times, or I can put it on the table and let them slap it 100 times and say it, and it's going to work. So I explain how games, and when they see it, I make them do it. Right? I go through parents and make them do stuff, and when they feel it themselves, they go, "Okay, now I get it." So
it's to some extent, it sounds like what you're describing is it's
teaching parents.
Well, that's a bit of that, and also it's like the contrast between marketing and reality with a good product. I think that's how it should be, right? So the marketing is look at the textbook, look at the pretty pictures, look at the target language. Here you go, right? But then the good product that's behind it. And I think it's the schools that begin to resemble too much their own marketing, they're the ones who are doing something wrong in the classroom, I think. I
just call the McDonald's of education.
Yeah, right.
The fast food of education. Like you want a system, you want it systematic, you want every teacher to be able to walk in and teach the students the exact same thing with the exact same outcomes. Well, we've all been to McDonald's, and we know that there are good McDonald's and bad McDonald's, right? So I'm not saying all fast food chain restaurant schools are bad. The good can come out of them. But in a general stereotypical role, I'm not a big fan of institutionalized training centers in China. I won't mention names.
It's funny. It's like
all of them.
Uniformities. We get a lot of security in uniformity, but often it doesn't lead to the most unique experiences.
I think people can't handle duality, right? How can something be good and bad? Like murder, right? If a mom murders someone who's trying to harm their kid, we go, yay, she protected her child. If she murders that same person and she doesn't have a kid, we go, oh, she's a killer, bad, boo. So like, how do you live in that duality of the world? How do you have a systematic approach to flexibility? That's what I do.
I think we'll keep digging with that, and once we find out the answer, we'll just retire and solve all the world problems.
It's games. It's games.
Yeah. So is that the next step then? You've gone from business owner into still business owner, but with games.
All right. So now we're taking the school. The school is closed. We closed. And it's reformed with it's my old partner. He's redoing it, so that's not anything I take care of anymore. The actual school stuff. So now I'm just focused on the shop, and then I've got this voice acting stuff that I do. That's what held me over during the virus times. I didn't go to online teaching because I had enough work doing voice work, and then that kind of led me to an education consulting position. So I'm recording this character and these stories. And it's Chinglish, and it's bad English. And some of the cartoon itself, like I remember there was one episode where they were cooking a pizza in a Chinese style toaster oven on top in the kitchen of an oven. They had copied the background of an American kitchen, so there was an oven, built-in oven. And then they had a toaster oven on top of that where they were cooking the pizza. And I'm just like, do you not have a single foreigner in your company who fact checks or like gives you pictures from Baidu to copy or something? Because this is like, I can see from the animation you've spent a lot of money on the artwork, and every time they would come to the studio there'd be like 5 guys watching us do it. And all the other companies I've worked for, they don't even send people to the studio, they just let the studio do their thing. So I'm just like, this company must be like stupid rich. And they were, and I was like, so are you hiring? Because come next year, I could move back up to Guangzhou and check it out. And they go, oh, yeah. So I got this great part-time gig as an education consultant. 2 times a week, I have to be in the office, so I look like I work there, and make as much as I would at a kindergarten, basically.
Wow.
So I'm like, that's great. So that held me up while the businesses were failing. I used all that money to keep my businesses and things afloat. And now that's led to, again, doors just keep opening. I feel like that goes with my personal philosophy of, positive thinking. So all that has led me to having a great 2020, and I feel like an asshole saying that.
No. I mean, I don't think you should, because you've all these skills you've been practicing of being flexible and dynamic. You were made for 2020. You were made, all this led to this. You were made for 2020, and now, you're using those skills.
My time is fine. Yeah.
Your time is here.
So
All the things that the light touches are yours.
After I left Shunda, I kind of had a mental break in Shenzhen, but Pingshan, which is, when you say Shenzhen, people think of downtown and the cities and the Shekou and the cool stuff and I was in Pingshan, which is next to nowhere.
No,
mountain.
I'm not even sure you would call it Shenzhen. Well, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, I was actually pretty close to downtown. I was like Futian.
So, yeah. So I lived there for a year.
I heard it was really nice though. So
it's 30 minutes from the beach. One of my favorite beaches. Like, almost feels like America. Kind of nice beach. Not. I mean, again, like, not Hawaii or anything, but it's passable. I really enjoyed it. Like, I'd be like, it's Sunday morning. I think I'll pop over to the beach and have a pizza from that really awesome place, and just sit by the waves and lesson plan or whatever, or do whatever I'm doing. Like, it was that, like, having a place to relax in China is important. So that was nice. That's the only thing I really enjoyed, and the community there, because it's a smaller part of a city. It's the foreigners there are more tightly knit. They don't judge as much, because I don't care where you're from or what your job is. As long as you're like, cool, let's just be cool. There were no foreign bars. There were no restaurants. There was nothing. Like, it was, yeah. There was a woman that opened a restaurant with Western food, and one guy found out about 3 months later. We're all there, all of us, all the time. Like, so.
She should be like, cool.
It was, yeah, it really felt like 10 years ago. China's all of a sudden, like, I just went backwards in time, but. I left there when the virus hit, and then got the jobs and stuff in Guangzhou, and so came back up to Guangzhou now. And now what I want to do is take all this. Now, I've been looking for investors, and I've had people in China. You always have a friend who has got a lot of money, likes education, and thinks that that's where the money is. So let's invest in education. And then they talk to me, and I've been called stubborn on more than one occasion. It's like, no, but you only want 8 students in one class, and you want 2 teachers. Yeah, that's not. I'm like, no, it works. Yeah, well, it works for you there. I'm like, well, it worked for me in Shenzhen and there and there and that. Like, I've done it a couple of times, so like, it worked. So trying to open a school with a Chinese partner has been very unproductive. So I've given up on that. I'm just like, I'm gonna have to do that myself. No one's gonna follow my crazy English teaching methods or whatever. So that's fine. But what I can sell to people is this game system. And I think, based on the expos I've been attending, the book, I just got back from Shanghai, the huge book fair. I really feel like games is the next marketing thing that's going to hit education. Because it kind of went from, we have a foreigner. Okay, great. Okay, we have a textbook from abroad. Okay, that's great. Okay, we have phonics. Okay, now we teach Montessori. Now we have, like, there's always these, like, marketing buzzwords. Yeah. Now it's STEM. I think STEAM. Like, they keep adding letters to that. Yeah, it's just like it keeps.
E-STEAM. That's when it's online.
Oh no, E-Stream is my favorite one. They've added reading into it. Reading. I'm like, so in other words, education as a whole. Like, why do you've just listed everything out and put it in a word? Like, that's like.
There will just be a point where it just says education, and people are like, "Oh, what does the D stand for? What's the U? Is it an umbrella? Why is it?
This is the expansion of STEM to just include everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it all just.
I mean, you only have to say STEAM, really. I mean.
STEAM.
Yeah, it's crazy, because the whole point was it was supposed to be the sciences now, and then it's like, now it's the sciences and art.
Yeah.
There.
Well, it's I agree with you. And the arithmetic. Yeah. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
With there's gamification. I mean, with my PowerPoint lessons, a lot went towards, like, a lot of teachers gravitated towards doing the bomb review games, and having these sort of interactive whiteboard flash Java games and all that sort of stuff. And I think they have their place. They're still a tool, but I think with actual board games, they have a definite physical element, and they're fun. you know. And
Well,
you know,
that's
when
the
we
thing.
talk about board games, we don't just mean, you know, like you know, Catan, but you know, you can start to veer off into Magic. You can start to veer off into D&D role play, which, you know, people still classify as being a board game. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Tabletop gaming, because you sit around a table, I guess. They I went to the Philippines, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and talked to the education department there about games. And in the morning we did gamification, and I said, this is for teachers who find their lessons boring, who don't know how to play games, and they want to motivate their students to do stuff. So this is your point system, making sure that your rewards and your punishments and your, you know, all these kind of things match. And it's like you said, it's not really playing a game so much. It's not a challenge. You're not competing against people. You know, it's just adding a few elements from games to make your classes more interesting. That's gamification.
Mm-hmm.
But then using games in the classroom traditionally has been as a relaxing moment, a warm-up, a prize. Congratulations, you finished your test, play some games. But it's never been the meat of the class. It's always been kind of the filler, the time. You can't teach games. That doesn't make any sense. These games have nothing to do with the books. That makes no sense. You know, and there are some subjects that, you know, board games aren't built around. Like there's just some things you can't, I mean, there's a lot of themes in games, but playing a themed game about science is not going to teach you science usually, right? So how to, that combination, I think since the dawn of technology, the first, you know, computer that came out, they probably like, oh, we can use this for teaching games or, you know, education or something. But what they've done is they've taken the worst practices of offline and just put it online, or they've just put it into a game. So when I hear the word, you know, board game in the classroom, usually what people show me is snakes and ladders, Candyland, you know, point A to point B, roll and move kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Bingo is one of the favorites. Scrabble, I don't know why Scrabble is an ESL game. I know, like, most native speakers don't even enjoy that because it's a difficult game for words. Like, that is not a fun game for. Stop playing Scrabble in your ESL classrooms. Stop it.
There's a real lack
learning
of
English
context.
and math.
Yeah, no bananagrams, like all that. Like, it's not. I sell bananagrams because I tell people, put it in a bucket of corn and let kindergarten kids find letter tiles. That's all bananagrams is good for in an ESL classroom for kids. Like, when you get to college student levels, maybe start playing some word games with them because they've got vocabulary, but it's not fun for learning. It's great for reviewing, but you got to have a lot. And I don't know very many Chinese students. Anyways, I hate Scrabble. So I love it personally, but not for teaching.
So what sort of games would you kind of recommend? And, you know, also, you know, please start to talk about this game that you have as well.
So I made the games that I recommend are all of them. You just got to know what the point of it is.
Okay.
Right? Like any tool in the classroom, it's like, if you're going to play Uno, is your point for them to practice colors and numbers? And if you do, how are you going to do that? How are you going to achieve that goal? Right? How are you going to control? Now, Uno I don't like because you don't have to speak to play Uno. You can just put the cards down and never do anything. So Uno is better for reading. So if you don't have anything written on that card and it's just a number, they're not learning crap. They're just, you know, having fun.
Yeah,
so,
I
like,
mean, you can play Jenga just by stacking it, but, you know, if you want to add in, you've got to write, you know, they've got to say the sentence or ask the question that's written on there or something.
The minute the teacher walks away, they don't need to read that sentence to play.
That's true.
There's nothing. All right. So what games need speaking would be Go Fish. Right. You've got to ask someone for a card. Catan, you just mentioned, you've got to trade in that game or you're going to die. Like you know, so there's some games where you have to listen or speak to the other players. So I recommend being able to recognize as a teacher which games teach which skills and how to focus that on what you're trying to achieve in the classroom. If you don't have that skill, then just playing the game by the instructions on the box is never going to work. So what I'm working on now is a business model where I've created a systematic approach to games to say, you know, like a database or an app or something where you just type in what you're looking for and it goes bloop, 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 bloop. Here are the games that can be adapted for that purpose. You know, please pay extra if you want to watch Brandy's video instructions or download the PDFs or blah, 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 or you can just, you know, work on it on your own or something. I'm trying to figure out how to put all this together in something that an investor will say, hey, that makes money, let me give you money. So.
No, that sounds fantastic. I'd love to see some sort of book that people can kind of, you know, like a practical English usage, you know, equivalent of practical board game usage for the classroom, where you go, I've got the present perfect here. How can I present this? Well, let's see how Brandy used that in a board game in the classroom.
I don't think I've come across a book that specifically targets using board games in the classroom.
Well, people are just intimidated by them because the cost can be expensive. If you lose pieces, you know, they're useless. So with young kids, they're generally, you know, looked down upon. So that's when I realized, I was like, okay, hang on. So using other people's games is great and all, but what really I think is needed is something more specific. And so I started looking on Kickstarter and saying, what have other people done? What has been successful or have failed? Because I know that I'm not the first person who said, hey, let's use games to teach a language. Okay, so I start researching. Now my favorite game is Magic the Gathering. So of course I'm selfish in this. I'm going, how can I teach these kids to grow up and like keep this game going? So I found a game with a couple of mechanics I like, and I dumbed it down for a bit. I used the content from the textbooks, right? So the parents will shut up. And then I realized something I had done was it's a playing card set, and you can play, I don't know, about 600 games with one deck of cards. Now, the applications,
these are playing cards that you made yourself, or did you use the Magic the Gathering cards, or how did this?
No, you could use just playing cards, but the reason playing cards have numbers and colors, and that's it, right? That's all you got. So what we're trying to teach are these words with pictures, right? So there's 13 in each suit. There's 4 different colors. An Uno deck, you know. So you could play Uno, Go Fish, Old Maid. All these card games are built around that. And by adding 1 or 2 more symbols to the bottom, now I've created it where now you can fight people with these things. You know, you've got little swords and little shields and life gain and stuff. And in Magic and in a lot of games, when you take your turn, you're limited by your resources. And your resources are other cards like land or money. You have to spend something to be able to play this monster or this fight card. So our resource is English. If you want to be able to play your card, you gotta speak. So what this does, this is my favorite part. What this does is allow people at different levels to play the same game together. Because the game itself is simple, right? Kill your opponent, get his life down, attack him. Right, kids pick this up faster than adults. It's fun to watch. So they're playing this game, but the problem is, you know, like little Bobby here, he just knows words, right? But Timmy over there, like he's grade 5, right? So what happens? He needs to be able to make a sentence to be able to play his cards out, or he needs to make a sentence with the word "but" inside, or he needs to make a negative sentence in perfect, you know, like whatever grammar point you're teaching today. So like all these things can happen. So no matter what your level of English is. Hell, you want to learn Chinese, I want to practice English. We can play together, right? So it's so flexible. People's brains just can't comprehend it. So that's what I'm working on now, is figuring out how to make this marketable so that investors will give me money so I can make a digital part of it, because I feel like one of the things I want to do is get away from teachers. No offense to myself, but teachers can be kind of useless and get in the way of education. So I'd like to have an app that has the pronunciation. So as you're playing the game, if you don't know the words, you just press the button. You know, I've seen these little, they look like owls, and they read the cards for you, and there's some AR stuff. So I feel like if putting this tech in it would make it sexy for an investor to look at. Right now, it's just cards on the table, and they're like, cards, what?
Well, it can be the avatar or figurine if they've got some sort of reader that, you know, that they can pick up and scan it, you know, like the Nintendo stuff that they have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So something that's low tech, but is tech, that lets them be able to hear the word so that they can, you know, if they don't have the teacher there, they can still learn from it and then play the game, kick their opponent's ass and win. And And then, okay, so then that ties in with RPGs, because I love those too. If you win the game, you have a character sheet. When your character sheet levels up, your teacher will give you a special card. Classroom management, done. class of 50 kids, you let them play games all day. They turn in their sheets. They've got evaluations they do. They write down what happened in the game, like whatever you're doing, and then all the teacher has to do is...
It says on your sheet that you used the past simple. Can you
Yeah.
tell me what did you do in the game? Oh, I did. Oh, yeah, I can see you've got that. You've leveled up.
Yeah, and so kids will beg you
like
to take a test.
Card, yeah. They'll beg you.
I need to level up. Let me pass this test. And here's the thing with level up test. If you fail and you get a 0, guess what? You get to take the test again. Yeah. You get to keep trying until you know the knowledge. Oh, what? Right? It's not just a test of knowledge. It's like skills and knowledge and everything. And you can keep trying until you learn.
Because they can't memorize it, they have to keep practicing again and again and again. And then you keep testing again because the question's always going to be different, right? Because it's not a question from an exam paper.
Yeah. But it's the words from the exam paper, so it overlaps. So parents and testing people can just like I've basically, education companies told me it's too fun, right? We don't see them learning. It's too fun. And game companies were telling me, it's education. No one buys education games. Education games are shit. I'm like, I have created the perfect thing. Both of them hate it. It must be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just surprising that in the teacher community, I always hear this term, in the EL2 community of edutainment, and yet it never seems to go into the mainstream. It's like, they've got to be separate. Education and entertainment is separate. We can't put words together.
That is literally the only thing that exists in China for foreign teachers. You are an edutainer, and if you think otherwise, your bubble gets burst so hard. Like you said, where are those Oxford graduates who read, with their masters in education, English education, who stay over here for more than like a week? Like they don't last because they don't realize even at that level, you're just a bigger, prettier prize monkey in the zoo. Like you're still in the edutainment zoo. Sorry to,
Yeah, it's just they get to say that we've got this really pretty one from Oxford or MIT or.
I mean, they get paid more, so that's nice, I guess. But China's cheap. You can live off 5,000 RMB a month. It's pretty easy. Even in a big city, it's not fun. It can be done.
So when you're developing your games, Brandy, is it based just entirely off your own kind of theories and experience, or did you actually did you read anything about like games design or gamification or anything, or you just?
Well, same thing like I did with when I started in education. Like I've just I've downloaded every course I could. I've taken anything online I've seen. I love ebooks, and I'm sorry to the creators, I can't afford them from Amazon. So Taobao is where I hit those up. You can find amazing things. I swear I'm trying to pay it forward to the community by making the world a better place. Like I'm justifying that stealing, because like I said, I'm creating content. I'm gonna make this game, and I hope people steal it. If someone richer, some investor comes in and goes, I can do this, just don't ruin it. Right, don't take my recipe and turn it into McDonald's, please. But if you're going to steal it, great. That's what I want.
I don't think it's going to be the case that they'd steal it. I think people more and more nowadays are wanting to pay respects to people that have created this stuff. I mean, the Cards Against Humanity guys, didn't they initially give it all away for free? You can just go on there and just print it out and stuff like that. Yeah. And people spend so much on these sets, and they've got multiple different sets, and they're quite happy to do that. I was very happy to do that, and I think
but that's
a similar model for
that's
you.
That's not the China thinking.
Yeah, well,
that's the very Western thinking. So that's the difficulty, is like I've got to do things I'm not going to like to do, but the ends justify the means if I'm going to get it out in China. Because if I get it out in China, then again, like that's climbing like the highest mountain in the world, I feel like, in education. If you can change something in the education in China, that's kind of what I want to go for. I keep making the comparison. I'm like, you know, the guy who made the first karaoke machine, who was that? Anybody know? No, we don't know his name. You know, he died penniless in Japan or something. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. I don't need to, I don't, like, this will be the one video that like no one will ever watch because no one will care who changed education in China where the, you know, games came to life. Like, I want to be that person though. I want to be responsible for that single-handedly. That's going to be my claim to fame. Like, I'm not going to let this go. I'm a dog with a bone. I've been at it for 10 years. Ever since the first time I played Uno in a classroom, and I realized that, like, oh, okay, this is how it works. Like, kids, there's just so many good things about games, not just in language education, but games in general that we all know. We're not going to rehash all the benefits of, you know, gaming, but it's amazing. So.
Well, it's exploration of. It just reminds me of like the Reggio Emilia, you know, the Montessori and all that Waldorf. You know, when they're going, this idea of just letting kids kind of explore these worlds that are kind of given to them, you know, with rules, and it's kind of almost like you're playing with life before you're actually going into the world, and you know,
literally a game called life, you know.
Yeah. I can see it happening more and more often. I came across a game the other day. Well, no, it's not the other day. Like this past year, that I'm quite embarrassed to say that I've been playing, but I really enjoy it, and it's actually helped a lot with my education, my financial education. Robert Kiyosaki, have you heard of him? The Rich Dad Poor Dad author.
Oh,
he created a board game called Cash Flow, and I tried it, and I was like, I actually learned quite a lot about financial education and being financially literate. I'm like, holy shit! All these years of just being completely terrible with managing my money. I'm like, and now I'm like thinking of investing, and I could invest in stocks and get some dividends, but I should probably put some money in. I'm like, hold on, how did I learn this? Oh, from a board game.
we didn't particularly mention it before, but I'm a lifelong gamer, as Neil well knows. I play video games all the time. The amount of things I've learned from video games, it's so extensive now. Pretty much my entire knowledge of history stems from video games, although I then go and I read about it afterwards. The seeds of interest come from what I learned from the games. Yep. Sorry,
I think that's where a lot of it comes from. I was going to ask about the game you just mentioned. How's the replayability value?
Oh, I replay
it. You play it one.
Yeah, I'm trying to introduce my wife to it. I'm trying to introduce Fanny to it right now because she needs to learn more than I. Because
no comment.
Well, one of the things that they talk about is they say if something is cash is an asset or a liability. And I realized that sometimes Fanny can be a bit of a liability in the money wise. So I do want to get that education. I love you, honey, for when you watch this back.
He's joking.
Yeah, I'm completely joking. Yeah, I'm not going red. This is a filter. But now I read a lot about it as well. I read a lot about economics and financial literacy.
It's sparking the interest. It's really
I completely agree with Rich's sentiments, and it's because it's that game has created. It's made it simple. It's demystified, it's pulled away the curtain for a lot of things, and it's made it simpler and easy to understand in a very quick and easy way. Robert Kiyosaki, if you are watching this, we want you on this show because I want to talk to you. We'll have Brandy on as well, and we can all make a great board game for learning English. Hit us up. But I'm gonna go check this game out and see can I start peddling this to economics teachers you guys need to practice English and learn. No, definitely. You probably have to adapt it a little bit because of the sort of card, like the Monopoly cards, how that language might
Heavy
go
language.
over the head. Yeah. But I think I think it's great. Check it out. There's even an app version that you can do, and there's a board game one as well.
There's just so much in the world of gaming, and it's really starting. So market research in China is damn near impossible to collect.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that says they can do it, I would like to see their methods, because just culturally speaking, having people to answer questions and share information is not really easy here. So all I can base this on is my personal experience and people I've talked to and places I've been, these game expos and things. I really feel like gaming is coming, and it's coming in hard, because I'm seeing bigger companies put more money into it. And I've seen Haba games, especially like German design games for like younger ages. They're here. I've seen there's a Taiwanese game company that is now connected with a tech company, and they, instead of just having like a book reader, now they want the book readers to like play games with the kids. And like I saw this amazing stuff going on. I'm like, I need to get on this. Like I love Teacher's House Shop, but it's a shop. It's not that hard to sell books to people. You show them the books, you give them the price, and then like I'm not interested in that. In the networks, like I said, the network is really kind of come into its own, and people admin themselves. So with the groups, I've kind of stepped back a little bit, but I'm going to pour everything this next year into just getting this game thing off, and I'm going to start doing events nonstop. I need to live broadcast. I need to start making videos. I've been so behind on that. Everyone's just like begging me to do that, and stand-up comedy shows. Like they're like, Brandy, you need to be out there. You need to get this done. And I'm like, okay, so that's my focus this next year. Like you said, for the business wise, yeah, great. If it makes money, I'm happy. If it gets stolen and I get famous, I'm also happy. If I just get this idea out there that games are really where education is going, needs to go. I'm going to force it there. I'm going to push that wave if I have to. Because there's just too many good things about it. And I love textbooks, and they're a great supplement to adapt the material and stuff. But at the end of the day, the games are really the meat of what I do and have done for so many years.
Well, I mean, English, it just lends itself, I think, to gaming, because of it has rules, it has ways that we can play with the words. It just needs a game structure, or game design that we can fit that in, that we can move through from the the simple verb to be and have plus nouns, and to all the different structures, and move through stuff like that.
Do you think one of the things that's holding it back might be teachers are scared of having to learn a new skill for the classroom? Like learning how to teach games is something teachers need to do. Like they're already teaching, but like teaching a game, is that different from how we already teach other things?
I think there's a lot of elements. I actually think there's a lot of bad games out there as well, especially in ELT, and you kind of touched on this before. So when people think of games in the classroom, especially board games, they sort of think of maybe those photocopyable kind of things that are similar to Snakes and Ladders that you were talking about, and then, they might be okay for sort of 30 minutes or whatever in the class, but they're not that engaging or whatever. And also, I think if you look online at like video games based around teaching English, there's quite a few of them, and lots of them, you kind of look at it and you go, oh, this is all right, and you could tinker around with it for 5 or 10 minutes, but then it's that's the end of it, kind of thing. So
yeah,
I guess it's a bit of a minefield, I suppose, in many respects, and it's sort of finding what works for you.
But that I don't know why it is, because we play these games all the time. Like the kids play Mafia and Werewolf in the classroom, and it's so easy to just adapt to just speaking in English, because they need to speak a language to communicate and play that game, and you just need to set it up and let it get going. But I think one of the things is there's somehow developed this entrenched idea of education, of how it should look like. And I think what Rich and I have been pushing, and it lends to what Brandy's been talking about, is I think for education that right now it's been traveling on a horizontal line, going from like iPhone 1 to iPhone 2 to iPhone 3. And I think what we're looking at right now is a vertical change. We're looking from going from horses to cars, where there's a whole different thing that's going to happen. And I think we're starting to see that with the pandemic. With people being challenged with how they teach and their methodology. Like these teachers that are using flashcards on Zoom, and the kids are like looking at a flashcard, and you're like, you've got a computer. It can play videos. It can it can do all these different things. So I think there's a big challenge to education, and I think the door's being rammed open for something. It could be gaming. I think that's going to be a heavy component. I think there's probably going to be a whole bunch of things as well, and it's going to challenge a lot.
Yeah, certainly an idea of like putting engagement in the center and the central focus of the education experience, right? This is something that seems to be coming up again and again. Like it's all about that motivation and engagement, which is something I think you sort of started with, Brandy. You were saying like, it's about the words that the kids want to learn. And that's an element of the gamification, isn't it? It's like has this intrinsic motivation about it. I think something I have heard from the sort of theoretical side that people criticize games about is they use this term Pavlovian motivation, whereas they kind of want a more sort of intrinsic motivation, like the language itself becomes the motivation. Now, I don't really know enough about that to be able to comment too much. I'm certainly not sure if I agree with it that much, because it would rule out a lot of things that people do use effectively in the classroom, such as points tallies and things like that, which I think can work and can motivate anyone, not just kids.
I found if you use that kind of system effectively, it's just for classroom motivation. It's not for the learning itself. I see a lot of people misuse it, where they say, okay, who can answer the question, and then the best student answers, and so the teacher calls on the first student. They get the point. Other kids are demotivated immediately. I'm never going to be as good as that kid. And it's just awful.
Yeah.
So I do it where all the kids have the equal chance to get up to the prize points. So like 10 points today, and you do it by achieving goals. So you meet these tasks, and they know what they are every single time. It's clear, and I give them immediate feedback. That's another part of gaming. So it's like, okay, so we're gonna sing a song, and maybe today, little Jimmy just sat and spun around on the floor on his butt while we sang a song. Should he get that point? We discuss things in class. This is where learning the language and being able to speak Chinese in the class just helps, because I'm like, well, did he sing while he was spinning on his butt? Yeah. So thank you for singing the song. He did what he was supposed to do. He just didn't do it in a way that you did. Because I've had to deal with a lot of special education students as well, and that was something that I wasn't prepared for in China. Having these training center type after school classes, you get a lot of this, and and our classes worked better for them because they were flexible, and the parents it was amazing to watch. And so that was the thing. Like I had to create a system that didn't punish them for being slower at English.
Yeah,
that's kind of where it all came out of, and it was just like, thank you for sitting nicely, and then thank you for singing the song, and thank you for drinking the water, thank you for all these things. And now you could get bonuses like for helping other people and things, but basically everybody had the equal opportunity to, and the clear, and I teach a whole lesson on how to effectively use a point system in the class, and it has nothing to do with like the language points at all.
I think that's a critical component of any language learning classroom, that you're not only targeting the highest achieving student. And it's interesting what you're saying. You're kind of talking about integrating a communicative element into the actual rules of the game, where communication is being used to determine whether or not someone deserves a point, and perhaps the amount of points that they determine. And then as a teacher, you can kind of manipulate that in such a way that people are getting rewarded for sort of effort and contribution rather than actual outcome. I know someone who was very good with point systems, who I worked with quite recently. It'd be quite nice to have him on at some point, actually, because he was really into this stuff. And one of the elements that he added was a randomness. So you don't win points, you win dice rolls, and then you roll the dice, and there's your points.
Well, I use that when I get them to about grade 2. So my point system, like I was saying, is basically in the beginning, it's just the Pavlovian, training them to understand the class expectations, what they're like, the class management, because if you don't speak Chinese, having them understand the rules is very difficult. So getting that done as quickly as possible so you can get to the teaching and the fun stuff. So that works in the lower ages for like 4 and 5-year-olds. Like, here's what I want you to do. Here's how you do it. You get rewarded. Good job. Then you get to the point where, like you said, that doesn't work anymore. Then they start getting, kind of like, well, I don't want to sit nicely. I'm 9 years old. Why I gotta sit nicely? I don't need any of this crap. I'm like, okay, I hate third graders. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's when they turn on me. And then so I'm like, all right, so I need a new point system to keep them motivated. And that's when it, because it did get to the point where I had them shopping. Like, you earn the points and you have a bigger reward, but again, that loses its luster. So it's like, okay, so once they get out of that, then it's the randomness of it, and that really, really helps. There's a lot of board games with that mechanic in it.
Yeah. There's some board games that are basically entirely that, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to shoot off soon, folks, and I guess we all do now. So
yeah, that's true. So we'll do a bit of a wrap up. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Brandy, and finally getting to see you in somewhat in person, in video.
Person. 2020,
in 2020 person.
So what we'll do is we'll do a quick sign off. We'll go through myself, Rich, and then to you, where you can plug and as much as you want, give all your links and all that sort of jazz. But again, folks, I'm Neil of NeilTEAcher. We have the website teamteacherchina.com, lots of PowerPoint lessons on there and games that you can use in your class, especially large public school classes in China. We've got a YouTube channel with the same name. We also have NeilTEAcher Baby, which is our journey with teaching a little child and moving along with that, and NeilTEAcher English, where we've got a lot of our PowerPoint lessons, but they're just put into videos that you can use as homework, or kids follow them along just like the lessons. And we also have here ProfesorRich.
youtube.com/ProfesorRich. That's basically all I've got going on. But new projects on the way, as I say, every week. That's all I've got. Please send me food.
And the final words we will give to the vibrant and vivacious, the wonderful Brandy teacher.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. This is my first experience with something like this, so I'm glad I was with you guys. Very nice of you. And like you've already mentioned, we have the Teacher's House Shop. So that's teachershouseshop.com. On WeChat, it's Teacher's House Shop. Pretty easy to find, I think. The network itself doesn't have anything particular for it. You just got to kind of find your way to us from the shop to the WeChat groups itself. We do have a Facebook that I don't maintain because I had VPN issues for a bit. We tried at an Instagram that, again, just kind of died off when that happened. So I'd like to build those back up as our team continues to grow. But everything else, if anybody wants to collaborate, anybody who knows me knows that I'm very easy to work with in that collaborative field, that I want to promote you. Like, I never said, hey, Neil, you've got all this stuff, let me buy it from you and sell it as Teacher's House stuff. It's like, no, let me push your brand forward. If you've got something you want to add to the team, anything like that. Like, I'm always looking for people to collaborate in any way. Like, let's just help each other out. I love that part of being in China. People just network more. So thanks.
Yeah, and I echo that sentiment. Any collaboration, that anyone out there that wants to come on the show, any teachers that have got something that they want to promote, or they just love talking about teaching like we all do.
I know I've got a couple of people in mind immediately that I want to bring over to you, because I want to hear what they have to say.
Oh, this is exciting.
That is exciting.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you again, Brandy. It's been awesome.
It's a pleasure, Brandy. Very interesting.
Yeah, and keep us posted.
Thank you for your cooperation.
And we'd love to have you on again, especially when you've got something that you can show us and we can get that out into the world.
Will do.